This is Tom Myers, Superintendent at the Bellevue Community School District in Bellevue, Iowa, coming to you with this week's Believe in the Blue edition. This is a little longer version because it was after a school board meeting. Once again, congratulations to our new board members who were present at the meeting as well. Same members we had in the old board, but that is Janet Sieverding, Kevin Lundeen, and Martha Montgomery Henning. Board elections within the board took place for president and vice president. President-elect was Kevin Lundeen will serve as president, and Paul Fahey will serve as vice president. Some other things that happened at the meeting that way. We had a student presentation on some recycling garbage bins that the industrial tech, the math, the art department, and the business department are all working on together. We had some students there who presented. McKinley Rader, Chaz Manning, and Peyton Grover presented from the business department. Gene Sprank and Tavian Kilberg were there from industrial tech, along with Tyler Peters and Mitchell Moyer presented their work that way. What they're doing, they're taking old street signs from Bellevue and around the area and putting them on the outside of garbage bins and recycling bins, basically making a steel side that way with them. And they're going to be placed in the school here, and they'll also be one by City Hall. And quite possibly in the future, there'll be more than that way. In the Bellevue paper this week, another student activity you'll see in the back page of that is the cardboard boat races with Mr. Ernst. I believe there's some picture of that online as well. But it was a great activity by some students there having a great time. They actually built boats to float in the Bellevue pool out of cardboard and tape, and they floated around. Now, several of them made it all the way around, in fact, more than once. They're based on getting around, speed, distance they got overall, the artistic views of it, and things like that. So a lot of things that way. We also had a presentation by myself and the other administrators on our Iowa testing assessments that way in reading, math, and science. Just so everyone's aware, our math scores are well beyond the state average and the AEA average, which is the Area Education Agency. There are about 27 schools in our AEA, anywhere from we're about the northernmost part to Louisa Muscatine schools in the southern, and then all the way out to West Liberty to the west. So we have some of the highest scores, and we are above the state average in the AEA, and along with the state, as I just said that way. So it was a great showing by our kids. That's math and literacy. We are above both in everything except for reading in 6th and 7th grade, and we're working on that. But other than that, we are above in everything that way, especially when they're graduating or their test scores at the 11th grade are above both the AEA and the state, so that's a real positive thing. One thing, too, you may see online is Bellevue Schools and Student Learning. This will be in the comment highlights, which will be posted on the front page, along with after this video on the superintendent's learning site that way. Bellevue Schools and Student Learning, one thing we talk about greatly there is student success in school and life. And what we're talking about there is a multi-tiered system of support for students who are struggling and for students who got it to give them something more, some enrichment to go further with their learning. It's learning beyond the textbook. It's problem-based learning opportunities, which is what our professional development today was all about, really creating problems and projects for students to work on that connect different areas of the curriculum together, connecting math, literacy, the reading aspect that way, science, social studies, all together in a project. The engagement, when those things happen, when students are working on something that is bigger than something from a textbook, something that means something they're going to present or do for someone else, learning occurs at a very high level, we believe. But it's basic skills as well, but it going beyond the basic skills, and then standard-based grading and meaningful assessments, really finding out where people are at. So scores will be on the website in regard to our students' assessments that way, which, even though I said we did well, I do want to tell you there's much more to it than doing well on a test. It's doing well in life and be able to apply that information. We also set our annual progress report goals for the state, and our goals are to improve our 6th grade scores in reading, math, and science. Mr. Raker talked about the Silver Cord program, which is a community service program, volunteering, and students each year will be required to get 30 hours a year for that if they want to earn this. So we've had a lot of students interested already. They will be recognized at graduation for putting in their volunteering community service time that way. That is completely voluntary of their own doing, and that can happen. Half of that time can happen in school, but the other half has to happen outside of school, and it all can happen outside of school technically. The board also approved a 28E agreement, which is a state agreement that we have to do as a public school system, putting money towards the Cole Park project that we've talked about in the past. So that was agreed upon. That way, something of formality. We've talked about that a lot in the past. Some other highlights that way. We talked about going to Iowa Association of School Boards convention. That's November 18th and 19th. Some Bellevue teachers will actually be presenting on November 19th to a group of board members, administrators. So we'll have some of our teachers there along with some of our students there presenting. It's a great opportunity for them. We also have the school finance basics quiz. There are about 10 questions there that the board members went over. I do have the answers on our website as well in the same edition of the comment highlights. We also talked about the Tony Wagner book, Most Likely to Succeed, and what's needed there. A couple areas we talked about there is there are 3 areas. One of those areas was making sure that we're teaching more than just the facts. The second one is assessing kids on something meaningful and something that they actually learn. It's not cramming everything in the day before a test, memorizing a bunch of things, then coming to the test the next day, regurgitating it all back, and then forgetting it. It shouldn't matter when that test is. I should be able to know that information, remember that information, because if I truly learned it, I can talk about it later on in a educational manner, in a worthwhile, relevant manner. I can explain what's going on. So that's very important. And then the board also discussed, what do students need? What are we trying to do here in school? Some of the comments made during the board meeting was students need human skills, or some of those soft skills, being able to communicate, arriving to work on time, talking with each other, obviously. It's a great experience for students attending and presenting at board meetings, for one thing. We need to raise students to live on their own, to be independent, to have the skills to make a living and to provide for themselves. We also need them to apply their learning to real life situations, and it needs to be modeled by everyone here in school. So we've heard many of these things before, but just goes to show the importance of them that way. Legislative update, we talked about the legislature will be meeting in January, obviously, for this session. They'll be doing caucuses before that. We talked about the aspect of making sure people know what we do, making the legislature know what's going on, making our community members, our parents, and everyone around know what's happening in the Bellevue school. So we will be promoting what we do, out there talking to people about what we're doing and presenting to different groups and having different groups come to schools to see what's going on. We had a School Improvement Advisory Council meeting last Friday, very beneficial that way. I'll put those notes online as well. But we had some students talk about Bellevue Big, which is a project based on Iowa Big in Cedar Rapids. We have 5 students in there right now. That number will increase. We're doing a trial run. Basically, we have 3 students, Andrew Segala, Andrew Meyer, and Kate Bockenstadt, presented there, and Jacob Hurley and Neil Villan are also involved in the program. They're doing some work with the DNR. Katie Bockenstadt is working on a community presentation through TED Talks or TEDx. Andrew Segala is doing a project on incarceration, and Andrew Meyer is doing a project on poverty and its effects on education and life in general. So some very interesting things that way. We will be having a work session for the superintendent and district going forward on September 28th at 6:30 for board members that way. We also talked about enrollment. That information will also be in these notes. Our enrollment is relatively stable right now for this year. Looks like we may be down somewhere between 1 to 4 students that way. It depends. The official count day is not till October 1st. Give some ideas that way. I will say that our elementary numbers are lower than our graduating numbers, which has been the case, but that gap seems to be widening. Last year we graduated a total of 62. This year's kindergarten is 42, so we're down about 20 in that regard, but we made up for those for some move-ins and things like that. Also had some discussion about Iowa High School Athletic Association sent us a letter saying that we were one of only 46% of the schools in the state of Iowa without a coach or player ejected. I guess that's a congratulations, but like I said before, that is an expectation. I recognize things do happen sometimes, but an expectation is that we don't have someone ejected. And to find that over half the schools in the state of Iowa did is a frightening statistic, frankly, in my mind. December board meeting, we may be moving up earlier to December 7th based on a concert on December 14th. Mrs. Hartung Schrader talked about collaboration time on Wednesdays that teachers have, and that's PK through 12. So those are some things going on that way. Some other events happening here in the upcoming days are the following. On Thursday, that's tomorrow, we have volleyball at Durant with middle school at 4 o'clock, high school at 6. Friday, we have football at El Burnett at 7 o'clock. Saturday, we have volleyball at Marquette here in town at 9 o'clock. Monday, we have middle school volleyball versus Marquette at home, and that'll be out the middle school, high school here, and that's at 4 o'clock. We also have our Comet Cross Country meet, and that is at 4:30, and that is at the Bellevue Golf Course. Just so everyone know this as well, the boys and girls and the junior high boys and the JV boys all won the meet last Thursday at Northeast. On Monday night, we went to Midland, and that was actually the first time the varsity girls and boys have won the same meet, so that's an accomplishment for them. On Monday night, we went to Midland, and the boys won the meet up there, and the JV boys and the JV boys and junior high boys won the meet there as well. Our varsity girls ran as well, but did not win the meet. Some notes of interest there in both meets. Cameron Ray was the winner of the girls, and Andrew Meyer was the winner of the boys. People are running very well right now for Coach Jess and his team. On Tuesday next week, we have middle school football versus Northeast at 4 o'clock. And then we also have middle school and high school volleyball versus Cascade at home at 4 o'clock, with the high school starting at 6. Also on Tuesday night, forgot to mention here, we have JV football at Hempstead at 5 o'clock. We've had a few games that people were not able to play us, so we rescheduled the game to go against Hempstead at 5 o'clock, and that's at Hempstead. Then we have fresh soft volleyball at Northeast at 4:30, also on Monday night. So some things going on that way. A little longer session than normal, but I want to make everyone aware of what's going on. Like I said, today was an early out. We had a professional development for our teachers, and the great portion of that time was spent on problem-based learning and really working to engage students in their learning. We will have another School Improvement Advisory Council meeting towards the end of October, and we'll be talking about some student things there, and that will be a night meeting. I just want everyone to know, if you're interested in being a part of that, please let me know, email me, call, whatever the case is. The phone number out here to my office is 872-4913. Hope everyone's having a great week. It's great weather outside, and we'll go from there, and I'll talk to all of you next week again. Thank you very much.